Low back pain is one of those ones where I think kind of resonates with everybody, because if you haven't had it, statistically it's coming. It's like 80% of the world estimated is going to deal with low back pain at some point. So my name is Chris. Some of you I haven't met before. I'm a chiropractor. I have a board certification in sports medicine. Actually, as of the fall, I'm double board certified. So within chiropractic, there are different levels within our chiropractic board. It's the way they look at sports medicine. There are a few of us who have gone the distance, and we're considered diplomates in sports medicine. What that means to you guys is that I'm pretty good at return to play, because that's essentially what they care about. If you're going to have a healthcare provider work with athletes, how quickly can we get them back on the field, and how long can we keep them on the field? Now, most of you aren't competitive athletes, but I would argue that you're still athletes because you do athletic things. And then even if you don't have a sport, just whatever you do in everyday life, that's your sport. So if you can't do it, then we got to get you back doing it as quickly as possible. And once you're doing it again, we got to keep you doing it. So I would argue that looking at everybody as an athlete and using that same rehab to performance mentality with everybody, it just works. And oddly enough, it fills a lot of the gaps that people are missing with more traditional forms of healthcare. So because of that, I really love working with active people who have active goals. And low back pain is one of those things that just takes you out. You know, it's not like, oh, I've got a sprained wrist, so I'll just keep going on with my day and just not use that hand. When you have low back pain, you're pretty much done. So we've got to find ways to get back quickly. Now, I'm going to show you some stuff today that I think works quite well. We're going to do a little bit of mobility work to start with. For some of you, if you're dealing with low back pain, that may be where you stay the whole time. You just keep working on stuff and you kind of absorb some of the other things that we're doing. Most of you will be able to move through all of this, and we'll just modify it as needed. The other exercises are going to be geared towards kind of bulletproofing your low back. When I first moved to Michigan, I'm from Southern California. So my first Michigan winter, I had to change a tire in the snow in dress pants. And so I was doing this in the cold, and my low back was on fire. But I work out. I squat, I deadlift, I do all those things. But I'm not used to being in loaded flexion in the cold in a static hold for a long period of time. And my low back, it was really bad. Another thing that happened the next winter, which didn't cause low back pain, is my son he went to Montessori, and I don't know if you've ever been in that parking lot. It's slanted, and they refuse to plow it. So halfway through winter, it's a sheet of ice. And so he was maybe 35 pounds at the time, and it was dark, and he did not want to go to school. So I was pulling him out of his car seat. He was having a tantrum. I'm in the dark. I'm not limbered up. I'm wearing pants and whatever shoes, and I dropped the keys, and they slid under the car. So I had to do a front squat, a goblet squat with a wiggling weight, stressed out, loaded flexion, compression, rotation, and I had to do it on a slippery surface without limbering up, and I hadn't eaten breakfast yet. So it's the worst case scenario possible, but I just got up and moved on with my day. Now, for a lot of people, that would just take them out. That would be the injury that ruins the rest of their winter. So you can think about rehab to performance from that perspective, because those are things that many of you are going to go through, or something similar. So what are we looking for today? Today, we're going to look for decreasing pain and increasing range of motion. That's the short-term plan, because we have to realize that some of this stuff is just going to take some time. So can we keep you training to a certain extent, even through low back pain? This, unfortunately, is where treatment tends to stop. It's just all about short-term relief, and then it gets sold to you as a long-term solution. So we want to look at long-term plans. Long-term, we probably, for most people, need to increase mobility and or flexibility, because when you get injured, that goes out the window, you get tight. We need a way to stay mobile and flexible. We need a way to increase strength and muscular endurance, because when you get injured, those start to tank. That's the worst thing you could do, is take an injured athlete and just focus on their injury, and then 3 months later, send them back to sport when they're deconditioned, and then another injury happens. So you have to look at not just strength and muscular endurance of the injured area of the low back, but what else is going on. And the most important is that I think we need to decrease sensitivity and fear. People identify with low back pain. Many of you probably walk around, saying, because someone told you 10 years ago you got a disc problem, and you just every time something happens, You blame it on your low back and your disc. Well, I think a lot of people are like that. So how can we desensitize the tissue and get rid of that fear of movement? If we can focus on these things and we have these tools, you can pretty much manage anything. Why do we do it? Because avoidance is just it's a crappy plan. And unfortunately, that's what we're sold a lot of times, is let's just not do it. Your low back hurts when you pick things up. Well, don't deadlift anymore. It's not a good plan. So we need to be able to work through things, not around them. And workshopping just has value. There's going to be things that we go over today that are not going to work for you. Just cross them off the list, you know? So sometimes you have to fail multiple times before you get to the right answer. So I would argue that failure is a positive thing if you learn from it and you move on. So today, out of everything we go over, ideally at least one thing is going to resonate with you and you can walk away with that. If not, you can cross all this stuff off your list. There is an answer out there, it's just not these. So I would say there's still value to it. If we look at the causes of low back pain, there's so many. I kind of break it down like a lot of people have a strength and conditioning issue. So they weren't ready for the activity. It's too much too soon, right? Other people, resistance hurts. So maybe they were ready, but something happened and it just hurts to contract the muscle. So it might be a muscle injury, a tendon problem. Those are pretty common. Other people, they're either too tight or too loose. So my yoga people stretch too much. Most of the lifters don't stretch enough. So you've got you've got too much range of motion or you're limited range of motion. And usually it's a combo of these to a certain extent. Other stuff, you've got poor recovery. It's really, really hard for a human to overtrain. It just is. The body can do a lot. It's really easy to under-recover. If you burn the candle at both ends for too long, you're going to have pain and injury. So that could be nutrition, sleep, training habits. Some of you redline it too much. If you come in and you go hard 6 days a week and you don't recover well, it's gonna wear on you. Some people don't train enough. You know those people. It's probably none of you guys, but the kind of people who show up and they come in for like a week and a half and they get so sore and then they take a month off because they're sore. And then they come back and they just are always complaining about how this is not for them. And so for someone like that, it's like, no, you don't train hard enough or consistently enough to get those results. So we would need to look at the training habits and the mental side of it. Stress, anxiety, depression, and just your expectations are going to have an effect. Your previous history injury is big. If you have a history of pain, you're going to have pain again. It's just statistically, that's how it works. If you're returning after a prolonged period of rest, and you're thinking like, oh, I used to be able to do this. I used to be able to lift this weight. And then you go right into it and you're not ready for it. Well, that triggers pain. If you're sedentary, some of you are sedentary CrossFitters. So by sedentary, we can measure that in a lot of different ways. I would say if you want a number, 4,000 steps per day or less, you don't move enough. So you could come in and train CrossFit 7 days a week, but if the bulk of your day you're sitting and not moving, you're getting in a lot of strength and conditioning, but overall you're a sedentary person. And we find that to be a problem with a lot of people. Your environment matters. So if you've got a job that has repetitive stress on a certain joint or certain limb, that could be a problem. Some of you just sit too much, so that gets in with the sedentary. And then there's other stuff. There's just so many things that could go into low back pain. And I think the big takeaway is there's no root cause. There's no singular root cause. Most of you have a combo of all of this. So to say that like this one exercise is going to fix you, that would be a pretty bold sales pitch. These are just options. But if you're sitting here thinking, I've got problems in these areas, there's nothing I can do for you or anyone else can do for you unless you make a plan to address those issues. You don't have to fix anything, but you're just a project, you're working on it. So I think that's a problem with a lot of people who have chronic pain, is they're not realistic about everything that goes into that experience. Today, what we're going to do, we're going to test. The test that we're going to use, end range loading, is actually one of my favorite treatments for low back pain. It's something that everybody can do and it works and it's ridiculously easy and effective. Then we're going to go through some stuff to try and bulletproof your back. So I'm thinking about changing tires, picking kids up, dropping keys under cars. These are the things that are going to take you out of what we do as a standard lift, because I've never seen anyone go up to a crib and pick up a crying kid after like a really good 30-minute warm-up. You know what I mean? And they got this good position, and it just never happens like that. So we're going to get into some less conventional positions with some less conventional lifts today.